It's me again. I'm here with this bright shining face making his YouTube debut.
Hey YouTubers.
This is Ben. Ben is my friend, but he is also my accountant. And he has been with me on the journey from being a first time, literally he was the first person I called when I became an entrepreneur several years ago. I think we had like a 3-hour conversation of just me being afraid. And he coached me through that, and since growing things on Instagram and through my event planning business, Ben has been there all the way and answered all of my questions. So today we're filming a 2-part video series for you. The first part is on budgeting, because I asked people on Instagram and they had so many questions about money and why we don't talk about money. I don't know. Why do you think we don't talk about money?
Well, I mean, I think everybody just kind of grew up with the idea that you're not supposed to talk about money, and I don't think that's very healthy. Do
you think our parents didn't talk about it because they were internally stressed too about it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to talk about the things that scare you. So we're debunking all of that today, hopefully. We're gonna talk about money. I think as a woman, I feel especially empowered as I grow my business to talk about money more. So this will be the first of many videos. And then the second video is on debt. So something that we all, literally everyone in the world has probably struggled with and is maybe struggling with. So let's get into it. We're gonna start with budget stuff. So what actually is a budget? And I'm saying this as a person who needs to do better at forming one.
Well, I mean, people have this idea that, oh, if you make a budget, then all of the money appears to do the things. But
it doesn't?
It doesn't. It's crazy. So what a budget really is it's you telling your money where to go instead of your money leaving you and you trying to figure it out afterwards. It's probably the easiest way to sum it. It's just going to outline where you think you're going to do your spending.
So this is pre-money.
Yeah.
This is pre-money planning, which can't say that I've been amazing at. It's something that I definitely want to work on in 2019. So that's why we're making these videos, because I think we all want to set ourselves up better for the new year. So beyond now that we've defined what a budget is, what do you do kind of before you even start this process? Like, what do I need to do before I even start thinking about it?
Well, I think the most important thing for people to get around the idea of budgeting is you have to do it honestly. It's one thing to sit down on a piece of paper and say, okay, I'm only going to pay my rent and I'm going to spend $100 on food this month, and that's how much money I make, so that's what I'm
And I never spend money on alcohol or fun.
Yeah, you have to be realistic. So if somebody's never done a budget before, what I recommend is that you take your past few months' statements for your bank and your credit card and just see where did you actually spend your money.
Okay.
And then you can go over it critically. If you knew that you spent more than you actually took in because your credit card balance was going up or your bank balance was going down, then we got to figure out how to make the number go down. If you had extra money, then you're doing something okay, but maybe we can do it a little bit better with a little refining. So
I think that's a good. I think that's a really good tip. Is actually like look at what you're spending and then create your budget around that, and then you can make tweaks. So I think that's something that like I think if I hadn't heard that piece of advice, I would just sit down with like a spreadsheet or whatever, because I'm 33 and I feel old, some piece of paper, and be like, I think I spend this much, but in reality, I spend this much. And so I think that's a great tip. All right, so next question. This is like probably the thing that's hardest. How do we actually stick with this? Like, how do we do this? Because I know that there's like a few tips and tricks, and so.
The thing about a budget is, and saving money and sticking to it and everything, it's easy to do, but it's also really easy not to do. And that's the toughest part. I mean, it's one of those things that if you get your mindset in it and you create a budget and you put the work into it, the first month you're going to be super excited and be like, yes, I'm on a budget, let's do it. And then month 2 starts to suck. And then by month 3 you're like, screw it, I'm sad, I'm buying this.
Yeah, it's kind of like fitness. Whenever you start a new fitness routine, you're so excited to like meal prep. You're so excited to like go to the gym and like have your workout plan. And then you're just like, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I just want to sleep in. So budgeting, similar.
Sticking with it is really about being honest from the beginning about where you're going to do your spending. The reason that people fail at it is because they get way too optimistic about what they can actually carve out of their real spending. They deny themselves a bunch of things and then they make up for it by binge spending afterwards. So a realistic budget that includes some level of fun and some level of personal enjoyment is there. Now, one of the problems that I see is people will go through their budget and they'll go, okay, I see what I spent last month and I didn't make that much, so I'm spending more than I'm making, and how do I stop that?
And how do I stop that?
Well,
spend less?
It's hard. I mean, there's no easy way to say, oh, if you write it down magically, the money just appears. It doesn't. You have to make some critical choices, and the way that I recommend people do it is they break things down into needs, really, really, really wants, and it would be nice to's. So you need to pay your rent. And, you know, maybe your rent is a lot for how much money you make if you just change jobs or decided to go freelance.
Right.
Maybe there's a decision in there about reducing your rent in the future, but for the short term, you've got your lease commitment and it's a need and it has to get paid.
Right.
You need to eat, but maybe you can get by on some ramen noodles for a little bit if you really need to plug that budget.
Guys, don't do it. The sodium content is terrible and your face will be very puffy. It's not worth it in the long run.
Maybe not
go
ramen
ahead.
noodles.
Okay, so we're doing turkey sandwiches, turkey something.
You know, you scale back what you're spending in certain areas. There might be a short-term denial that you have to do to get through it, but as I said before, the reason a lot of people fail at budgeting is because they're way too strict on it and then they binge afterwards. If you can set yourself a realistic budget that includes some level of getting through those debts, which we'll talk about in the next video, and you set kind of an end date and progress marks on it, it's easier to do the hard thing for longer because you've set some short-term goals to be able to do it. So if I really buckle down for these 2 months, I should be able to pay off this credit card and that frees up X number of dollars per month, and then I can loosen up a little bit. And those progress markers are what help people get through it.
I think it's like, I liken it a lot to like eating healthy. A lot of people, why people's diets fail is because they're like, I'm gonna eat 1,200 calories a day, I'm gonna start my day with a celery juice, and then I'm not gonna eat till 2, and then it becomes this really unmanageable thing. You might be able to do it for 2 or 3 days, but then it becomes an emotional thing. You've now turned food into this emotional battle with yourself. And I find that way about money too, is if you create this unrealistic kind of version of yourself, who can ever live up to that? I mean, we want to budget in for going out on dates or going to take a trip. Like, these things are realistic parts of our lives, so why wouldn't you include them? So I think that's really smart advice. One thing I will say, and I will add this into what you're saying, but also the thing that's helped me is finding little pockets of money. Not only thinking about how you can save money, but also how you can accrue money. And so for me, that's been things like, what can I do each month to look around and see where I can pick up a little change? You know, and that doesn't necessarily mean like getting a second job or whatever, but it does mean sometimes looking in my closet going, could I sell back a bunch of clothes? You know, could I, you know, save on a house cleaner for this month and clean my house myself? That is not a realistic example because I hate cleaning my house. But it's like, how can I scoop up little bits of income also? And then that also can go into your kind of either savings or fund money to kind of make budgeting more manageable. And so I think it's about saving, but it's also about seeking more income for yourself. Like, as an example, I cleaned out my closets. I clean out my closets once a month, but then I did a big closet clean out about a couple weeks ago. I took absolutely everything that I could part with to a resale shop and ended up making $800 at the resale shop. And so that was like $800 worth of income that I could kind of put into my bank account. And so that became a plus, not a minus, onto the budget that I don't have that I'm gonna be making. Last question for this video is, what tools or like the actual mechanics of making a budget? Like, are you
doing this stuff? Yeah.
Like, are you writing it on a piece of paper? Are you doing it in your head like I am? Are we using apps? What are we doing?
So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and the tool depends on the person. So people love to get excited and set up a new app, and you know, there's apps out there like Mint, and they do the job. They will create a budget for you and help you track what you're doing. One of the more successful ways that I've seen was actually, it's called the envelope system. You know, you can do it a little bit differently in your world, but the idea is that you are taking out money and putting the money in envelopes for the different things. So your rent envelope, yes, okay. Actually cash. So, you know, if you know that you're going to have $200 for your fun money for whatever that's going to be this month, you put $200 in an envelope, and when it's gone, you stop doing fun spending things. You know, the first month you'll probably blow it on day one, but you get a little more discipline to know this is how much I have.
Yeah. And it's also a nice like visual representation of of like having money. Yes. Because I think it is really hard, and we'll get into credit cards in another video and like that sort of stuff. But it is this disconnection we have with money now because we just swipe.
Yeah.
And it's like $3, coffee's $3. And then you're like, at the end of the month, you're like, holy shit, I just spent $500 on coffee. What am I doing?
What I like about cash is when the envelope is empty, you're at 0 and you're done. Whereas when you're on the credit card, you can go right past 0 and just keep on going, and then you get yourself into some trouble.
Okay, so that's the old school. That's like the oldest school. That is literally like old woman hiding her money in a shoebox under her bed.
Yeah.
But if you had to choose like a more modern version of that, whether that's an app or an Excel document or whatever people use, what would you say that you've seen people had success with?
People have had success. I find that Mint is one of those things where a lot of people set it up. Some people are successful, but they're the same people who would have been successful no matter what they did.
Right.
The people in my world that have been the most successful actually do it on paper every month. Even though it takes you more time, it's time that you spend actually going through everything and really reviewing it. And there's a lot of great budget templates out there. I mean, you can probably just Google it and you'll find some things and you add your own categories. But doing it by hand and taking the time and just saying, okay, on the first day of every month, that evening, I'm going to sit at home and do my budget, it really reinforces the whole thing of why you're spending, and you get to set those short-term markers and set your budget for things so you know when you're making progress. And that's the most successful way that I've seen it, is really doing it by hand. As much as it's not cool and techie, and it's what works.
Hey, we're not trying to be cool on this YouTube channel here. We're just trying to get shit done. Well, these are all very helpful things. We are so excited to be opening up the conversation about money more. And in the next video, we're going to talk more about debt, all the things about debt, the stress behind it, all of that. But this has been such a, I think it's like, I feel really prepared to take 2019 and actually do a budget now. And I will also be sharing, a bunch of you shared on Instagram, apps and things that have been working for you that are great. So I will also list those down in the description box of some other options besides pen and paper, because you know where to find that. And if you want to find Ben on Instagram, he only posts accounting memes, which is the best. And it's a great answer as to why he is my accountant. So you can find his information below as well. And I hope this helped, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.